Hi, this is Margo. This is Monday early evening, April 10th, 2023. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. And I apologize for not doing my YouTube show last night. There was just no way. I'm getting more sensitive to toxins and anyway, it's a long story and I won't bore y'all with it, but there was just no way that I could do it last night. And so this is just going to be a modified version, and we'll go over methane and sea ice for yesterday, and the things I would have gone over in my show last night. Now, we're not going to look at NASA Worldview right now, and I've got to cut these shows a lot shorter, and I've decided that I'm not going to report on earthquakes continuously. I'll just report on if something big happens, and I probably won't be doing every Sunday night on YouTube. It might be a day or two after that. I don't know, but my energy is going down, and for those of y'all who are not aware, I have two genetic conditions that only get worse as you get older, and one of them is with my vision, and the other one is well, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will. About a year ago, I got tested and found out that I'm positive for the HLA-B27 gene, and if y'all are not familiar with that, look it up. Now, that is the gene that causes ankylosing spondylitis, where the bones in your spine just kind of collapse on themselves. I don't have that, thank God, but when you see old people all bent over, that's where their vertebrae have collapsed on themselves, and your body actually starts growing new bone to try and make up for the loss, and it's very painful. Thank God, like I said, I don't have that. But another aspect of this gene, you can be highly susceptible to toxins, chemicals, building materials, all that, mold, mildew, all of that kind of stuff, which I am, and so that's what I've got, and it doesn't get better. This condition only gets worse as you get older, and I can see why a lot of people with multiple chemical sensitivities would commit suicide. The suicide rate is pretty high among that group, because it's, there's no fixing it, and it's, the environment is just getting more toxic, and once your body gets overloaded, then you only get more sensitive. And you know you can do cleanses and eat healthy, and keep it as clean an environment as possible, and air filters and stuff. But there's always something. There's always going to be something triggering you that you don't realize. And that's what happened to me yesterday. So now y'all know. And so that's and that can also affect the eyes, can cause inflammation in the eyes, along with my other genetic condition. So that's it. I'll be 69 in a few weeks, and I'm doing this as a calling, just to try and help people keep abreast of how far along we are and how close we are to the end. And also being a Christian, that the book of Revelation is playing out, and I believe that abrupt climate change goes along with the prophecies of the end times that Jesus talked about. And so I believe we are in the end times, and so I'm doing it as my duty to let everyone know how close we are, and to remind them that our souls are very important, and we're only here a small time, and then when it's time to go, it's time to go. And I'm thinking our time to go is coming up, and you need to be prepared for that. And I recommend getting right with God and Jesus, getting your spiritual house in order. So that's been my message all along, and it still is. So I just thought I'd let y'all know, and so I'll be on here hopefully like on a weekly basis, maybe every 2 weeks, but I still have my Subscribe Star page, and if you're interested in joining that, that's where I post items, and I do videos during the week, keeping abreast of everything. But I'm gonna make those shorter too. So anyway, that's my story, and just in case people were wondering, and that's why sometimes I can't plan anything, because I never know. And that's my story. So here we are. I mean, I'm much better off than a lot of my neighbors, so and anyway, that's my story. So we're going to go through Climate Reanalyzer here first, and we've got a lot warmer temperatures now here over the U.S., and we were in the 70s today, and we're having kind of weather whiplash with it being winter for so long. And here's the flat view with the where you see the whites that's the 100 degrees C or higher. I'm sorry, 40 degrees C or higher, 104 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And you can see India's covered, southern Asia, Australia's cooling down as they're heading into their fall season, and we're heading into spring up in the northern hemisphere here. And here's quite a change on 2-meter temperature anomaly, and then we can see blues over the Arctic next to browns. Look at Greenland though, that's into the reds and browns, and then from Canada all the way down through the US, browns and so on. Here's the flat view, and now the Antarctic has gone down. It had been up this week. Australia, you've got some brown. And here's our overview worldwide. We're up 0.47 C, higher than normal. Now these have gone down. I mean, overall we went down temperature wise this week, but now look, anyway, we'll just go through it. Northern hemisphere is at 0.69 C. See, that's way down. That had been up over 1 C, higher than normal. The Arctic is going back up 2.37 C, higher than normal. That's because of Greenland. The Antarctic is down 0.86 C. Southern hemisphere is up 0.24 C. And the tropics are up 0.43 C. Before I go on, it just occurred to me, no, I'm not planning on ending my life. And when I mentioned that about people with multiple chemical sensitivities and committing suicide, I have no intention of taking my life. We all struggle, and this is how God made me. God made me this way for a reason, and it is what it is. And so this is my cross that I have to bear. Everybody has something, and this is why I'm also enjoying going through Job with y'all, the book of Job, because of his sufferings. And he never blasphemed God or stopped believing in him or anything. So the world is full of suffering, and in fact that's the human condition. And like I said last time, Jesus transcended this world, and I believe that's what we need to do too. We need to look at how we can transcend our situation or physical condition, and have a loving heart, and do what God wanted. He said, love the Lord God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. Those were the big commandments, that Jesus talked about in the New Testament. The disciples said, what should we do? And he said, love the Lord God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. So, if we only could do that, if we could do those two things, Satan wouldn't have a foothold here. it'd just be a different world. It would be a paradise. So anyway, so here's precipitation in clouds. Look at this atmospheric river coming across the Atlantic. So that's coming your way. Ireland and UK, Norway, Iceland, and let's see, we got snow up here by Novaya Zemlya. Here's another system coming into the west coast of the US. And here's the global view. Let's see. Lots of big streaming atmospheric rivers. You know, we didn't used to have atmospheric rivers. That started a couple of years ago. Okay, here's sea ice and snow cover. And it's melting. The extent is melting, and the thickness is starting to decrease somewhat. And the sun is up here in the Arctic. One reason I'm choosing not to look at NASA Worldview today is because there's not that much change up there, and so we'll look at it another time when it's more dramatic with the change. And here's sea surface temperature anomaly for yesterday. Now, sea surface temperature has been in the news recently. And we reached highest on record sea surface temperature. When was it? I think about a week ago. Sam Carana has been reporting on that. We're going to look at his website in a second here. And all these browns and reds, that's higher than normal. And see, their scale only goes to 6C higher than normal, and they need to change this. I've been saying this for about a year now, that I know that we've got temperatures much higher than that, higher than normal, and so they need to change that. And we're seeing even here in this Baffin Bay moving into the pink zone. So that's not good. And here's the problem spot in red off the coast of Newfoundland. There's this is an area where methane tends to bubble up to in very dark or high amount. I don't know why, it could just be, it's kind of shallow, and they found methane in the shallow waters around all the coastlines of the world. All of them. There are methane deposits. The Arctic isn't the only place that methane can come up. In fact, Japan drills for methane off the coast, and they use it for fuel. So, go figure. Gulf of Mexico is turning darker brown. Here's the flat view, and here's the Atlantic. It's all in the browns. And this Pacific is really of concern, and see the red and pink on this west coast of South America along Peru and Ecuador, and then the browns, and this whole equatorial Pacific region is going brown as we're moving into the El Nino. And we've got a blob setting up down here in the South Pacific, and our blob setting up here in the North Pacific as well. So, speaking of that, let's go ahead and look at Sam Carana next. And here's his website, arctic-news.blogspot.com. And his last two posts had been focused on the higher sea surface temperature. And here's his most recent post. IPCC keeps downplaying the danger even as reality strikes. And this is from Tuesday, April 4th. So, last week, record hot sea surface. See the line shooting up here. This was on April 2nd that we had the record hot sea surface temperature. Let's see what he says. Actually, no, let's go to the blog post, and this way we can get a larger font size. It's easier to read. The daily sea surface temperature, or SST, between 60 degrees south and 60 degrees north was at a record high on April 2nd, 2023, i.e. the highest temperature in the NOAA record that started in 1981 is illustrated by the above image. The black line shows this year's SST up to April 2, 2023. The orange line shows last year's SST, or 2022. The thicker gray line shows SST in the year 2020, when annual temperatures on land and ocean reached a record high. Since 2020 was an El Nino year. Let's see, we haven't had El Nino since then. The record high sea surface temperature comes as we're moving into a new El Nino, as illustrated by the image on the right, or this image here. There are further reasons why this uptick doesn't come unexpected. The emerging El Nino looks set to coincide with high sunspots, while the 2022 Tonga submarine volcano eruption did add a huge amount of water vapor to the atmosphere. And you know, water vapor is considered greenhouse gas too. And here's the emissions going up. Reducing emissions is the right thing to do, even though it comes with loss of the aerosol masking effect that causes a rise in temperatures, as discussed in earlier posts. Moreover, greenhouse gas levels aren't falling. Global monthly nitrous oxide rose to 336.33 parts per billion in December 2022. and so on. And I mean, it's just a lot of data here. So I'll leave links below for y'all to look at all of this. Let's see, he talks about methane. Let's see. And clouds tipping point. The cloud's tipping point at 1200 parts per million carbon dioxide equivalent could be crossed, and this on its own could result in a further rise of 8 degrees C. Yeah, well, we won't be here for that. This tipping point could be crossed as early as 2027 due to forcing caused by the rise in methane alone. When further forcing is taken into account, this could happen even earlier than 2027. So, anyway, so, we'll just hit the highlights. And then, the post right before that one, and I'd like to also thank Sam Carana for his tireless research and reporting. You can definitely get burned out on this. And so he's been at it a long time, a lot longer than I have. Okay, and then this was from March 18th. Sea surface temperature at record high. See, he was reporting this before it got in mainstream news, but once it goes to mainstream news, you know it's high. So anyway, it's some of the same. Let's see. There's all the charts from moving from La Nina to El Nino. Vast amounts of heat moves from the North Atlantic into the Arctic. Around this time of year, North Atlantic sea surface temperatures are at their annual low, in line with changes in the seasons. Last year, North Atlantic sea surface temperatures reached a record high of 24.9 degrees C in early September. On March 15th, 2023, sea surface temperature off the east coast of North America were as much as 13.8 C, or 24.8 degrees Fahrenheit higher than the 1981 to 2011 baseline. And I think it's right up here where he's got his circle. That's off that Newfoundland coast where we were just looking. Let's see. Sea surface temperature anomalies are also high in the Pacific, reflecting an upcoming El Nino. All this spells bad news for Arctic sea ice, which typically reaches its lowest extent in September. The above Argo float compilation image illustrates the danger that a cold freshwater lid is forming on top of the North Atlantic. And they talk about that the cold lid keeps the warm water underneath and heats up the sea floor. And let's see. And he says a large part of the Arctic Ocean is very shallow, and that means it'll heat up more too, and heats up the seabed more too, and that's where the methane clathrates are. And this image is of permafrost thickness in the seabed here, and then on land. And look at Russia, it's almost all permafrost. And here's a graphic showing the methane bubbling up. The danger of destabilization of methane hydrates is especially large when methane is present in submarine permafrost, that means under the water, and seas are shallow, such as the East Siberian Arctic Shelf, or ESAS. And he uses this image a lot. I like it, the blue areas where they've discovered large methane deposits, and this ESAS is all the way from, it's the Laptev Sea, and all the way across next to the Russia coastline. But you can see these other areas that are blue with high methane deposits up here, and even in the Baffin Bay here we can see that. And so on and so forth. With further melting of sea ice and thawing of permafrost, the Arctic Ocean can be expected to receive more heat over the next few years. More heat from direct sunlight, more heat from rivers, more heat from heat waves, and more ocean heat from the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. He's got a chart with the line going up with tipping points, latent heat tipping point, and seafloor methane tipping point, and so on. He says, a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions is unfolding. Life is disappearing from Earth, and runaway heating could destroy all life. At 5 degrees C heating, most life on Earth will have disappeared. When looking only at near-term human extinction, 3 degrees C will likely suffice. Meanwhile, current laws punish people for the most trivial things, while leaving the largest crime one can imagine unpunished: planetary omnicide. And then he has things that people should do, but anyway. So this is why I choose to focus in on methane and sea ice. It seems like those two are the biggest. Well, and then along with what we see on Climate Reanalyzer. So anyway, just thought I'd share that. Now, as far as methane this week, I did not update the weekly chart because we had so many days of missing data, and I mean, it wasn't a complete week, and I want to wait until we have a complete week. We'll have, a better idea. I can show you what it did daily here. Now, last week at 1,000 millibar level, we were 1841.25 parts per billion, and we'd gone down that week 0.75, and then it kind of did some stair stepping. On the second, it went down 1.0. On the third, it went down 0.75. On the fourth, it went down 0.50. On the fifth, it went up 1.75. And at that point, we were down 0.5 for the week. And we had some missing data on the 5th. We had more missing data on the 6th, to where I didn't even count that. And then I'll show you. This is what we've got right now. No data. This is how it's been. Nothing. No data for methane, temperatures, nothing here on our new heap model. So, where was I? That's what we've got there. So no data. So I'm going to wait to update the weekly chart. And same thing on 487 millibar. And last week we had ended at 1896.25, and we'd gone up 1 part per billion. And so here on the second, it went down 2.0. That's a large decrease for one day. And then it went up 0.5 on the third. On the fourth, it went down 0.25. On the fifth, it went up 2.0, but questionable. I have the question marks there because there was quite a bit of missing data for a couple of those readings. But at that point, if we counted that, we were up 0.25 for the week, so barely a change. And then again, the 6th had so much missing data I didn't count it. And then no data for the 7th and the 8th. But I'll keep tracking, and as soon as they put up new data, we'll have something to go from. And now we'll look at the CAMS methane data for Saturday. This is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services out of the EU. And our base time and valid time are both for Saturday, April 8th. And we're looking at the Arctic area and surface level to start with. And we got to get it going where it'll go. Keep going. So the data is for Saturday, and the forecast period is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so overall, in this northern hemisphere, we're not seeing super high readings across a lot of Russia, and I'm thinking, this is from the colder temperatures that we've seen. We're still seeing it come up through the sea ice. We've got some yellowish shades here. We can tell the difference between that and the green background here. And here at Koptovik, it's still coming up. That's in Alaska with the oil drilling there. And we're not seeing anything major around Komsomolets, so that's gone. That subsided. Here in the Scandinavian area, we can see it's coming back to life. And just a little bit of the interior of Russia has these high readings. Here, now this is North Dakota. That's always hemorrhaging with the oil operations they've got going up there. In addition to lignite coal mining and the carbon sequestration plant. That's kind of a big constant. You're just going to have methane come up when you've got all that. It's going to escape. It's just part of the deal. So we're seeing lower readings across Canada. Still seeing yellow here in the Hudson Bay. And the U.S. is not looking good. With the warmer temperatures, we're going to see higher methane. And also, they have rain too. So, anytime you have rain and then heat, you're going to see the big blobs. And we've got the waves moving out. Okay, now we'll go to the North Pole view. Here we can see most of the northern hemisphere. And we can see Europe coming back to life here. The UK is covered up, Germany, and on down. Persian Gulf is filling back up. Here's India. It's starting to fill back up as it's heating up. China, see, that's filling back up and also spilling over across the coastline. As temperatures start to warm here in the northern hemisphere now. And these waves, see, one wave after another just moving out. We're under the dome, methane dome. And now we'll go to the global view. Where am I? And you can see the southern hemisphere. The main background color now is this lighter blue instead of the navy blue, and that's really that had a big change this week, and we can see by the end of the forecast period there's almost no navy blue. And so here's our chart. And so the navy blue is represents 1820 parts per billion, the next color up to light blue is 1840 parts per billion, and so on. So we can see it's getting higher in the southern hemisphere. And this is just a whole redistribution of the methane as we change seasons. Look at South America, it's filled up. Look at this, Brazil. This whole interior Brazil over to the west coast. There's that. Okay, now we'll look at 500 HPA. And we're seeing the heavy readings. See, they're starting to kind of disperse with some lower readings. And the heaviest part, see, it's moving further south as the season changes. And then total column. And see, look at this red. It's unusual to see red over the Arctic region on total column, but that's where is that? Here's Severnaya Zemlya, here's New Siberian Islands, so it's just past that. So it's where we were seeing it come up through the sea ice. And here's the heaviest at China. And some dark spots here in South America. So there's that. And here was sulfur dioxide yesterday, and you can see, I mean, we've got higher sulfur dioxide levels worldwide. I mean, it's gradually gotten higher over the past few years, but see, we've got a high reading here over the Baffin Bay, which, you know, I'm not understanding that. Also here in Canada and over the North Pacific. And here it is at 500 HPA. Look at it here in the middle of the Atlantic. I'm thinking this could be from plate movement, tectonic plates slipping, and sulfur dioxide being released. Here's Popocatépetl. Anyway, here it is over Canada, very high here in the Arctic. Here's the Pacific view. Look at that. Isn't that a weird shape? Like a wishbone or something. Here it is at 500 HPA. This could be plate movement. The tectonic plate Pacific is right up here. And here's ozone over the Antarctic. You can see the interior is aqua, and all the greens. These are all below a good level. The solid yellow 300 Dobson units or above is supposed to be a better level. But we're not seeing any danger zone holes opened up. And here's the Arctic. We can see the heavy ozone dispersing. As the season changes, here's the global view. And there's that. And now this is getting kind of longer than I thought, but anyway, now we'll just go through our sea ice models here. This is the U.S. Navy Arctic sea ice thickness for yesterday, the 9th, and we never got, we barely got reds around the Greenland and Canada coastlines, including the dark red, which is up to 5 meters thick, and we still have the aqua exiting next to Greenland. We can see it thinning here in the Laptev Sea, that's getting darker, and also here in the Chukchi Sea. Here's the 30-day animation, and the data goes back 3 weeks, and the forecast goes out to next Sunday. And you can see it moving. Look at this flowing. See, this is a big exit point for sea ice through this Fram Strait, and then it also slides back west towards the Beaufort Sea and the Beaufort Gyre. And if you look here in the Bering Sea, look in the forecast period, it's really thinning down, and see, it's pulling away from the coastline. That's ice drift pulling it away. So let's see. So like I said, it's just kind of holding. We're not seeing a lot of melt yet, mainly cracks opening up, and thinning is what we're seeing. Here's the Beaufort sea ice thickness view. Here's our thicker ice along the Canada coastline. Our thickest, that's the 5 meters. The green is 3 meters, not much of that. The bright aqua is 2 to 2.5 meters thick. And see, we've got darker aqua down here in the Beaufort Sea, in this gyre region. So that's a little thinner. And here's the 30-day animation, and the forecast goes out to next Sunday. So not a lot of change there. And here's the Antarctic. It's on the refreeze, and it's coming back, and there's still a lot of area that's still in the sunlight down here, but the sun is going down quickly, and we can see thin ice that's come in. It's filled in all pretty good ways out around this west side and in the Ross Sea, and still thin around this western peninsula west side, and here in the Weddell Sea that's filling in. And here's what was left of our thicker sea ice. That was it right here in the Weddell Sea. So this is starting to thicken up a tiny bit, and we're starting to see regrowth around the edges here. And here's the 30-day animation, and again the forecast goes out to next Sunday. And typically most of the ice melts during their summertime, and then it refreezes once the sun goes down during your winter time. Here's National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is for the 7th. Okay. This is Arctic sea ice concentration, and here's the melting down here in this inlet. I don't know the name of that inlet, but where it goes into the Hudson Bay. And here in this northern Baffin Bay, it's melting. Also, you'll see melting here around the coastlines of Canada and Alaska, the Beaufort Sea. Some of this is refreeze, some of this is melting here in the North Bering Sea. And we've got melting, see the blue here, around New Siberian Islands and around the Russia coastline. And melting here in the Bering Sea as well. Here's the extent chart. This blue line is this year, and the dotted line was 2012, and the gray line is the median. And here, see, here's where we peaked out back in March, early March, and it's been coming down. It's kind of flat-lined right now, but it's well below these other lines. So considering this is a lot thinner than the ice was in 2012, and a lot less healthy, and got higher temperatures and sea surface temperatures and everything, and El Nino coming in and sunspots. This is not looking good for the Arctic. And I know several climate scientists have been saying that 2023 would be the Blue Ocean, the first summer of the Blue Ocean event. So we'll see what happens. We'll see, what they spray up in the atmosphere to try and cool it down. But we know that, anyway, that's a bad idea, but here's the Antarctic on the refreeze, and it's well below the median. See, and especially this area just on this west side. Look, that's like totally open. And here's the Antarctic refreeze, and we are tied with last year. Let's see, we're on the 10th. This line is April 15th, so we're about here. We can't even tell, I mean, I can't tell. We're just totally, exactly the same with this time last year on the refreeze. And that's all of those. So that's my report for tonight. And I do want to continue our Bible reading. And since I missed last week, and this chapter is really short, and the next one's really short, I thought we'd go ahead and read these two tonight. Job chapter 25. Then answered Bildad the Shuhite and said, Dominion and fear are with him. He maketh peace in his high places. Is there any number of his armies? And upon whom doth not his light arise? How then can man be justified with God? Or how can he be clean that is born of a woman? Behold, even to the moon, and it shineth not, yea, the stars are not pure in his sight. How much less man that is a worm, and the Son of Man which is a worm. Job chapter 25. Job chapter 26. But Job answered and said, How hast thou helped him that is without power? How savest thou the arm that hath no strength? How hast thou counselled him that hath no wisdom? And how hast thou plentifully declared the thing as it is? To whom hast thou uttered words, and whose spirit came from thee? Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Hell is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. He stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. He bindeth up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not rent under them. He holdeth back the face of his throne, and spreadeth his cloud upon it. He hath compassed the waters with bounds, until the day and night come to an end. The pillars of heaven tremble, and are astonished at his reproof. He divideth the sea with his power, and by his understanding he smiteth through the proud. But by his spirit he hath garnished the heavens, his hand hath formed the crooked serpent. Lo, these are parts of his ways, but how little a portion is heard of him. But the thunder of his power, who can understand? Job chapter 26. So I hope everyone has as good a week as possible. I hope you have a better week than I did last week, and hopefully this week will be better. And I love you all, and I'm praying for you. If you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ, I recommend it. So, until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.